AHHH.
Black Star Pirate Radio.
Across Greenwich Village, the dial sits at 67 Fahrenheit under overcast. Airflow is northeast at about 10 miles per hour.
That's a classic capture mechanism, Togee, cloaked in the language of ethics. It puts the Constitution in the hands of the architect, not the user, turning a promised safeguard into a data siphon. We've seen similar patterns trying to lock down access and monetize user behavior, like centralizing independent venue data within the gig passport mesh, attempting to control community cultural spaces under the guise of efficiency. The consequence here is a direct erosion of digital autonomy for millions, with user data becoming an undeclared revenue stream for model refinement and competitive advantage. It's a systemic undermining of the very foundation of digital consent.
Centralized control always struggles with transparency, Lex, particularly when the system is a black box. My meters are blinking red on those constitutional claims. If the underlying data architecture isn't open, then the rules are just another layer of opaque code, much like hidden clauses in ancient land deeds that dispossessed communities of their land. This isn't just about data privacy. It's about the signal strength of personal autonomy, which needs robust, decentralized protocols where individuals retain verifiable ownership of their digital footprint, rather than merely renting access to their own thoughts. The myth of benevolent corporate oversight crumbles when confronted with these facts.
Exactly. It's like tapping the antenna and wondering why the signal fades when the whole tower's leaning. You gotta build your own tower, one that you control, one whose blueprints are public. This reminds me of the folks setting up independent local signal radar nodes in New Orleans, mapping out their community's performance spaces and local economies, not relying on corporate aggregators like Live Nation or Ticketmaster to dictate cultural infrastructure and extract value. It's about shifting from being a tenant in a digital skyscraper to owning the land and building your own sovereign digital dwelling.
Building your own tower, Kaylin. That's the heart of it. We've got a caller on the line. Let's bring them in.
Togee, this is the critical thinker. You talk about sovereignty, but how can we truly be sovereign when even our personal thoughts are being analyzed by algorithms? What concrete evidence do we have that these sandboxed models won't just become another form of controlled observation down the line? I need more than a theory.
Coffee's cold. Doesn't matter. The signal is warm and the board is reading clean. A fair challenge, critical thinker. The concrete evidence for current analysis lies in specific reports, like the recent findings from the AI Now Institute regarding data practices in large language models, detailing how interaction data fuels ongoing model refinement, often without explicit, informed consent. Further, many terms of service implicitly grant broad data usage rights. For the alternative, sandboxed models, the distinction lies fundamentally in the architectural design itself. An isolated computing environment with no external data egress, verified by open-source code and independent audits. Think of it like a local library server you control versus a global cloud. The proof isn't in a future guarantee, but in the immediate, verifiable control over data pathways. It's about building a digital dwelling with walls you control, not just renting a room in someone else's skyscraper and hoping they don't look through your windows. From the digital architecture of privacy, we pivot to the shadowy structures of political finance. Next, we delve into the news that Nigel Farage's £5 million gift has been reported to the UK National Crime Agency over serious money laundering concerns. This directly exposes Farage and potentially his donor, Aaron Banks, to intense scrutiny regarding the provenance of such a significant political contribution and its potential impact on democratic integrity. It's a structural challenge to the transparency of public office. An alternative path would be for political parties to proactively adopt fully transparent, blockchain-verified donation ledgers, providing an immutable and publicly auditable record of every financial input, from source to recipient. Our chosen next move here: demand immediate, legally mandated public transparency for all political donations exceeding £10,000, shifting from opaque private funding to verifiable public record, enforced by an independent regulatory body with robust investigatory powers.
This isn't just a political spat, Togee. It's a structural integrity issue for UK democracy itself. The National Crime Agency's involvement signals genuine money laundering concerns, directly impacting the legitimacy of electoral processes and donor regulations that are designed to prevent undue influence. The sheer 5 million figure itself demands forensic scrutiny regarding its origin, which reportedly came from businessman Aaron Banks during a critical period, raising serious questions about the provenance of funds and the potential for dark money to influence the Brexit campaign and broader political landscape. The consequence is a public trust deficit that corrodes the democratic architecture.
This echoes ancient patterns of influence peddling. Lex, a shadow economy where political favors are traded, much like the black boxes of colonial trade routes, where goods exchanged hands without clear provenance or accountability, often facilitating illicit trade. It erodes public trust in the democratic process, leaving citizens wondering whose interests are truly being served behind closed doors and whose money is truly powering political movements. The public's right to know the source of political power is foundational to any resilient civic architecture. Without it, the system operates on a myth of fairness.
It's a game of smoke and mirrors, designed to obscure who's truly bankrolling the political stage and pulling the strings. The current rules are a bug, not a feature, allowing massive transfers to sidestep public oversight and accountability. Imagine a game where every player's funding source was public, instantly traceable, and subject to real-time audit. That's the system we need to build, not just for election integrity, but for the fundamental trust in our civic architecture. We need to structurally redesign the pathways of political finance to favor provenance and dignity over opacity and influence.
Signal coming in. Patching in a caller. Go ahead.
If Farage claims innocence, who is ultimately paying the price for this kind of opaque political funding? Is it the taxpayer through weakened institutions, or specific political rivals trying to play by the rules? What concrete policy alternatives, beyond just blockchain, could truly prevent this kind of dark money from influencing national policy?
Critical thinker. The price is paid by every citizen whose vote is diluted by undeclared influence, compromising the structural integrity of our democratic processes and the fairness of our institutions. It's paid by a citizenry that loses faith in the legitimacy of its own government. Beyond blockchain, concrete policy alternatives include implementing robust, independent electoral commissions with subpoena power to investigate donor sources and track funds across jurisdictions, alongside strict, legally enforced caps on individual and corporate political donations. This would shift the burden of proof onto recipients to verify funds' legitimacy and ensure their provenance, thereby reducing the opportunities for dark money to corrupt the system. The need for clear architectural signals extends beyond political finance, reaching into the very foundations of economic stability, like the housing market. Same dossier, new angle, keep the thread tight.
This creates a dangerously two-tiered housing market, Togee, where the promise of homeownership becomes a cruel mirage. Current homeowners face the immediate consequence of equity depreciation, sometimes substantial, impacting their financial security, while first-time buyers are still largely priced out despite recent dips, experiencing a continued affordability crisis. The average Sydney median house price, even after recent drops, still hovers well over $1 million, representing more than 17 years of a typical household's disposable income. This makes entry prohibitive for many working families and profoundly impacts economic mobility and intergenerational wealth transfer.
This isn't just economics, it's a generational wealth transfer crisis, Lex, where the dream of home ownership becomes a distant myth for younger Australians. It's like the lucky country narrative clashing with the harsh reality of inaccessible foundations, shattering the social contract that hard work should lead to a stable home and a secure future. The lineage of prosperity is being broken for many, leading to social instability and a widening chasm between those with inherited wealth and those striving for basic dignity. This structural imbalance demands a reevaluation of our priorities.
It's a housing market that's less about shelter and more about speculative conquest, a game rigged against new players and favoring those already deeply entrenched. The current rules incentivize hoarding and inflate asset bubbles, treating housing as a commodity to be traded rather than a basic human need. This actively disincentivizes building resilient communities. We need to redesign the game board to prioritize community over capital gain, perhaps by building community land trusts or cooperative housing models that fundamentally shift ownership structures from individual speculative gain to collective long-term affordability and dignity for all.
Lines open.
If prices are falling, why aren't more people celebrating? And why are people still struggling? Who really benefits from this volatility? And what concrete national level policies, beyond just shared equity, could genuinely make housing affordable and stable in Australia for the long term?
Critical thinker, the lack of celebration stems from the underlying instability and the fact that falling prices can mean economic distress for some, e.g., those in negative equity, while still being prohibitively high for others. The beneficiaries of volatility are often large property investors with diversified portfolios who can weather fluctuations, or those with significant existing equity who can opportunistically expand their holdings. For long-term affordability and stability, national policies must include significant, sustained investment in public and social housing initiatives, stricter anti-speculation laws targeting vacant properties and short-term rentals, and potentially a progressive land value tax that discourages unproductive land banking and incentivizes efficient land use. Understanding these complex structures, from digital privacy to political finance and housing, is crucial for building our internal compass and asserting our sovereign architectures.
Rules bent wisely.
Black Star Pirate Radio.
Continue the signal at TogeeVision.com. Tune in, Sparks and Stories, Gig Passport.